We've already had Miami Vice episodes devoted to Castillo, to Switek and Zito, to Gina, and finally, Trudy gets her due. Today's episode, Dutch Oven, was written by Maurice Hurley and was directed by Bad Lieutenants Abel Ferrara, whom Conan O'Brien has named as his worst interview guest ever. That doesn't have anything to do with this episode, but I like knowing things. In an opening sequence scored to Foreigner's Women off their 1979 album Head Games, Trudy paints her face in a manner reminiscent of Bowie during his Aladdin Sane phase and dons a fright wig to go undercover as a new wave princess / streetwalker. During a sting operation gone wrong, Tubbs is robbed at gunpoint of the cash he'd brought to a drug buy. The thief splits with the money, and Trudy and Crockett, who'd been posing as a sex worker and her prospective client, take off in the Ferrari in hot pursuit while Diamond Field by Pat Benatar from her 1984 album Tropico plays. Trudy and Crockett identify themselves as cops, but the thief refuses to surrender. When he pulls a gun on Crockett, Trudy shoots and kills him. To unwind after her harrowing night, Trudy hits a club where her ex-boyfriend David is crooning a song called Love is for Sale, which was written specifically for this episode. David is played by Cleavant Derricks, perhaps best known for the 1990s Fox sci-fi series Sliders. Trudy feels emotional and vulnerable after killing someone, so David orders some Dom Perignon and lends a sympathetic ear, and they rekindle their romance. They eventually roll around on David's satin sheets together, but first they're interrupted by the arrival of David's sleazy, coke-dealing friend Adonis, who is played by Giancarlo Esposito of Breaking Bad, making his third villainous appearance on Miami Vice. A pair of super cranky investigators with internal affairs come down hard on Trudy about the shooting, probably because they don't like Crockett very much. After withstanding a rigorous interrogation and a scathing dose of sarcasm, Trudy is left doubting her actions. Crockett, who is a good egg, passionately urges her not to second-guess herself and affirms that she acted correctly in the situation. David takes Trudy to a party at which David Johansen, lead singer with the 1970s punk band New York Dolls, is performing King of Babylon off his 1984 solo album Sweet Revenge. Adonis is moving a great deal of coke at the party, and Trudy finds herself uncertain as to whether she should still be a cop in her free time or if she should just let it slide. She turns to Crockett for advice in a warm and surprisingly sexy scene in which she gives him a neck rub on his boat, and they wind up cuddling a bit. As much as I love seeing healthy, non-sexual male-female friendships portrayed on television, Don Johnson and Olivia Brown have enough chemistry here that it seems like a missed opportunity that Crockett and Trudy will never hook up over the course of the series. A preliminary investigation reveals that Adonis is working for a major Colombian drug supplier, and getting him to flip on his employer would be a big coup for Vice. However, busting Adonis would undoubtedly ruin Trudy's rekindled relationship with David. Trudy does a bit of soul-searching, wandering around Miami in a montage set to crossover contemporary Christian / pop star Amy Grant's Who to Listen To off her 1985 album Unguarded. She ultimately decides to take down Adonis. She facilitates a meeting between Adonis and Crockett, who claims to be looking to score a boatload of coke. The bust goes down more or less as scheduled, though Adonis resists arrest and Crockett ends up taking 3 keys of cocaine to the face. It's only a partial victory because Adonis refuses to rat out his boss. Also, David does indeed break up with Trudy after she arrests his buddy, but I'm not necessarily considering that a drawback. David's okay, but he and Trudy didn't seem to be having much fun together, so I don't think viewers were really deeply invested in them making it work. It's good to see Trudy being given some time in the spotlight, but this is a pretty unremarkable episode. At the core of it is an interesting idea. For Vice detectives, where does the job stop, especially when those around you are involved in activities Vice is dedicated to stopping? It's not a strong enough concept to hang an entire episode around, though, and the story ends up seeming underdeveloped. It's lifted by some nice touches. The unconditional support Trudy receives from the entire Vice team, particularly from Crockett, is great to see. There's also an adorable scene that doesn't have much to do with anything, in which Crockett plays gin with a trio of cranky old men on the patio of a hotel. It's possible it's part of a stakeout or some other undercover assignment, but I vastly prefer to think that, despite his glamorous lifestyle, this is the way Crockett prefers to spend his free time. 2.5 flamingos for this one. Next time, Crockett's old army buddy's ties to the mob will jeopardize the life of a young mother. Until then, please subscribe to my channel or find me on Twitter and we'll talk more there. Thank you for joining me. Goodbye.